You're listening to the Sports Scramble Podcast, where four friends serve up a weekly plate of sports with a side of SEC bias. Now, here are your hosts, Chet, Jacob, Wade, and Tyler.
Let's go!
Hello, everyone.
You're
Welcome
listening
back
to the
to
Sports Scramble
the
Podcast.
Sports Scramble Podcast. Welcome back to the Sports Scramble Podcast. Unfamiliar voices back. Chet is not with us tonight. So we have gone to the bullpen and brought in Neil to round out our scramble for tonight. So Neil's back with us. Tyler's here and Wade's here as well. So Wade's sporting that Bengals jersey tonight.
That's right.
Got that big one against the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game. Joe Burrow is that guy. I mean, he just steps it up when the time's right, and you can tell that him and Mahomes have a friendly rivalry going, but a lot of respect between the two, I feel like. And the AFC is just loaded at quarterback if you think about it. I mean, and they're young too. It's not like we're waiting for Tom Brady to retire or something. I mean, it's everyone has come in the league within the last 5 or 6 years, and they're here to stay. So a lot of talent.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, speaking of the NFL, I think we're going to start the show with the NFL. We've kind of been on the same track of that for a couple weeks, so we'll continue right in with it. First opening, you hear big news. There's big news around the NFL, and one tonight. You got Jimmy G is expected to have season-ending surgery on that foot that he broke. So that's pretty detrimental, I think, to this San Francisco 49ers. I mean, who do they go to in this case?
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
He was a first-round grade like 3 years ago, and he slipped to the Mr. Irrelevant pick, and now he's starting for San Fran wearing number 13. There's no current quarterbacks wearing number 13, so it just kind of fits the bill for him.
So whatever happened to the guy that had started the year off this year? Did he get hurt?
He also is out for the year, so they've
just
had
a bunch of
injuries.
They put all the confidence in Trey Lance, and then their Jimmy G gets hurt, and now they have to go to Brock Purdy, the Iowa State quarterback. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah,
they might be looking at the practice squad around the league and try to find somebody that at least has some starting experience.
That or some team's third guy, that have a. Say a team that's like, for example, the Titans, that with their number 3 guys, a decent veteran backup, they could try to go after him, or some of these other veteran third string guys, who teams who have taken young quarterbacks recent years who are now on there, who still have their reliant backup, could be an option as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Trey Lance goes down at the start of the season, his foot goes backwards. And then you got Jimmy G goes down and his foot breaks in half, basically. So they got a lot of foot problems there. They need a foot doctor for the 49ers over there. San Fran's having some problems. They've got a decent team this year, though. Surprisingly, the last few years, they've just been hanging out there. And I feel like they wait for the playoffs in order to come on strong. But, yeah, kind of a big loss for the 49ers. Going to the guy who was given a suspension and was due back thanks to Roger Goodell against his old former team, and Deshaun Watson had a rough day today, but his defense helped him out with 3 touchdowns. So it looked a little different than what it should have been.
That was a wild game. I mean, just so many errors, and it was like 5-3 at the half or something, I think, or 8-5. And, a good thing the defense showed up, because Deshaun definitely had some rust. He was trying to force everything to Amari Cooper, which I liked for fantasy purposes, but unfortunately everything was behind him or over his head or in the hands of the defenders.
I will say that I'm not sure if you were watching the game, but you could hear the boos on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Every time they're offense. And it was, as somebody, I'm an AFC South guy, and I can't see the Texans, so it was fun watching, no matter how much I wanted Houston to win because of Deshaun and that whole mess of an issue. At the same time, I couldn't cheer for them. So I was like, at least the defense won them that game. It wasn't Watson that led them to victory there. That's something I feel like most people can accept. Okay, Watson played like crap. The people who are not really fans of him coming back to this, cool, Houston lost. At least he played bad.
Yeah.
That's the one upside to it.
Yeah, that's what they're waiting for, these Houston fans. They're going to boo the ever-living hell out of them. I feel like they just love that he had an awful game against them. But like you mentioned, their defense stepped up in fantasy purposes. They got 31 points. So not a good day for Deshaun, but the Browns were able to pull off because just the Texans are just awful.
Yeah, they're tough. I mean, Davis Mills at quarterback doesn't give them very much. They really need to find out what they're going to do as far as the draft
Kyle
goes.
Allen doesn't give them much either. So
No.
they need Bryce Young bad.
Mhm.
They need
They
somebody
are on
big.
track for the first overall pick, though, being one win. And what are they 1-8-1 now, or is it 1-8-9 now?
I think,
I think 1-9-1.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite remember if it was 8 losses or 9 at this point.
Man, and staying in the AFC here, Lamar goes down with an injury. He's due back, though. I think he's going to be questionable, for quite some time, but I think he'll still be able to come back before the end of the season. For the Ravens, a lot of talk. I know we talked about it on the show here about the AFC North being a really key piece for the playoffs, and the AFC North has kind of been dominated by that wild card spot the last couple of years, and it seems like the AFC East is kind of taken over in that regard. But the Ravens seem like they're the only team alive in the AFC North with the pulse.
Until today.
Yeah, until today, Joey B and the Bengals said not so fast, my friend.
But I agree with you. It took them a while to get warmed up, and I think the
Yeah.
Bengals might still finish a game behind the Ravens, although the Lamar injury does kind of complicate it. But
Yeah.
the Bengals looked the part today, but it took them a while.
I will add to that. So, who do the Bengals use now, though? I'm not the Bengals. I mean the Ravens. Who do they go to quarterback now?
Well, they do have a very good backup situation. He's pretty much a clone of Lamar. He only had like 5 incompletions. Tyler Huntley. He was the Oregon. I mean, not the Oregon.
I love
Utah
him as a Mark Andrews fantasy owner. All the time that he started, he went to Mark Andrews.
And he did fill in a little bit last year. This kind of happened to the Ravens last year, but as Jacob was saying, they've looked really good. So you hope that they can continue.
Yeah, I mean it's been a decent season for them, up and down. I mean, they started the season pretty rough and kind of went on a tear there thanks to Justin Tucker in some of their games. There are a lot of close wins for the Ravens. I mean, they've kind of prided themselves on the run game with the quarterback in out of the backfield now. I mean, Mark Ingram's not there anymore. They don't have much as far as running back depth goes, other than your quarterback with Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, I think the pass game will be big for them the rest of the season. They're going to have to be able to throw the football.
Well, that's another thing. Like, their receivers aren't that great anymore because Rashad Bateman's out for the year, and now you have to go with Devin Duvernay as your wide receiver one. So I feel like if you're the Baltimore Ravens, wherever you land in the draft, it has to be wide receiver. I mean, I feel like Jackson Smith-Njigba, that's a guy that had a first-round grade, and we haven't even seen him at all this year at times. So maybe he falls down into the teens, and you can fall down to Baltimore to fill in the slot because you can't just throw to your tight end every time. I mean, the defenses are just going to continue to pile it on him. I mean, Mark Andrews only had like 50 yards today in the Ravens game. So there's only so much, that Devin Duvernay and Andrews can do. And now that Lamar Jackson's probably going to be out for the next couple of weeks, what do they do? Because they don't have a reliable running back either, with Dobbins being out. And so now you have to rely on Latavius Murray, who's had experience, with Denver and with New Orleans, but I don't know. You just can't be a bell cow guy if you're getting nearing 30. So I don't know. The Ravens are going to have to find something on offense, but their defense, I feel like even through the stretch, is going to keep them in ball games.
It seems like running backs have been the whole problem this year, really. I mean,
yeah,
I think I speak for all of us as far as fantasy goes. Running backs have been an issue as far as point production, injuries. I mean, I've got 2 current running backs on the IR right now with my fantasy team, and I just can't get anybody to produce any points.
Yeah, I got a steer today with Kenneth Walker going down, so we'll see if that's severe injury or not. But if it is, then I'm gonna have to go with Tony Pollard the rest of the way.
I mean, but he's been pretty solid this year, though. I mean, the Cowboys kind of figured out with Pollard. I'm gonna add to that.
I just hate that they're just keep feeding Zeke, and Tony Pollard's definitely the better running back as a whole.
But I was going to add to that comment, though. I mean, look at Derrick Henry. Like, I mean, the man is a beast of running back. At one point, he was on track for a 2,000-yard season. In the last 3 weeks, he's been lucky to get 100 yards. It's like teams have kind of – I mean, and he's been that prolific back that when he's been healthy, he's been able to put up 150, 200-yard games. They're normal for him. The last 3 weeks, he's been struggling to get 100 yards. It's just interesting, as y'all were saying, like running backs this year is not the case. It seems like teams are just – pass game's working. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of a dart throw. I mean, you're getting a lot of – I feel like receivers aren't stretching the field as much anymore, and you're getting a lot of, like, little out routes and stuff, crossing patterns, slants, and it kind of fills in for the run game in a way. A lot of yards after the catch I've been seeing.
Yeah, and moving to some of our games today, we'll work our way around the scramble with it. But your guys' biggest surprise, biggest game of the day, I guess, of the weekend, including Thursday's game and the game coming up tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. But as of the games that have been played, what's y'all's biggest surprise and biggest game of the weekend?
Lions Jags. That game was that was a good game. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of the coach at Detroit, and that game was of the morning games. He was the only high scoring offensive powerhouse game. Like, and who would have thought Lions Jags was going to be that game for the morning, at least.
Yeah, I didn't see it being a 40-point game for Detroit. I mean, they've had some good games like that though with Jared Goff slinging it. He did get Jamison Williams back, and then it seems like DeAndre Swift's finally healthy. So that team, with as bad as Green Bay is, I mean, they could steal a few divisional wins. They could be an outside shot in at a wild card, which would be pretty crazy.
And I want to add to that, though, that Ra or whatever, or Rana St. Thomas Brown. Or St. Brown, that guy, he's been good all year. I've noticed he's been the anchor to that team's wide receiver core. He's been, I know he's a younger guy, but he's been just dominating for them on the outside. And it's been fun. It's kind of fun to see the catches. He's made some crazy catches in some of those games. Even when they've lost, he's been consistently good for wide receiver for them. It's been kind of fun to see for a team that's been notoriously bad and people give crap to. But watching their coach and watching him play just makes it fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really talented, kind of underlooked, last year with Jamar Chase taking off, and then Justin Jefferson is a second-year player last year. They kind of overshadowed what he did, but, I mean, Detroit's got a really talented wide receiver. I kind of doubted him and his abilities going into the season because they drafted Jamison Williams so high, but I think they were kind of taking the approach that we saw the Bengals and the Jets and some of these other teams take, where they want to load up on young wide receiver talent and just kind of redo the whole corps. So he'll be around for a long time, and he's super talented.
Yeah, I mean, it was a risk, but, I mean, he's going to, in the next 5 years, he's going to be that wide receiver rookie class that you look back. Olave is doing good for the Saints, but I feel like in Jamison Williams, we're going to look back in 5 years that Jamison Williams is going to be the best wide receiver coming out of that class. So it was worth the risk. My surprise pick was the Ravens and the Broncos at first, but when I read about Lamar Jackson, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, I agree with Neil. 40-14 victory for the Lions. I saw a Lions win coming, but if you would have told me that they would have put up 40 points on the Jaguars and also hold Trevor Lawrence in that offense to 14, I would think that you're joking. But yeah, that offense is legit. It's a young offense. So I think that this Lions team, give them a year or two. I mean, they're not even out of the playoff race as it is right now. Just has wide open as the NFC has been this year. So don't count out Detroit making the playoffs this year.
All right. I got to kick it out west. Y'all are focusing on the East. Okay. I got to say, I was surprised that at this point in the season, the LA Chargers aren't finding ways to win close games. I mean,
you're making me
a lot of talent. I know Mike Williams is out, but you got Keenan Allen back, and Justin Herbert's got to step up and find a way to win those games. I mean, for all the talk that we gave him, all the praise that we gave him, I mean, if he wants to keep pace in that AFC quarterback conversation that we just mentioned, I mean, he's going to start falling down the pecking order when we're watching instant classics between Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen. he's got to be able to challenge those guys. And I just don't think that he's got the team to do it. And I was surprised that they lost to the Raiders because the Raiders are real banged up. Of course, they have Devontae Adams and he's balling, but still pretty ugly loss there. And I think it has them on the outside looking in for the playoffs.
Yeah, it just seems to me like, having Justin Herbert on my fantasy team every week, it's a coin flip. Is he actually going to show up, or is he going to continue to hand the ball off to Austin Eckler and call it a day? It just seems like Herbert's hesitant in throwing the football. It just doesn't seem right, and I don't know what it is, but he just looks uncomfortable in the backfield. I mean, like last year watching him, in a one-on-one situation, he was slinging the ball, no problem, and didn't have a problem doing it. But, at the end of last year, we were talking he could be an MVP candidate the next year, and I know I was on it. Tyler was on it. And
yeah, about it. We picked him to win the division.
Yeah, I picked him to win the Super Bowl.
And
probably the worst one out of the four. But, yeah, I mean, there's just no sense of confidence in this Chargers team. I mean, they have the talent on both sides of the ball, but you're losing games that you shouldn't lose. I mean, the Raiders – defense isn't the best, and the real weapons you have with Keenan Allen coming back. I know that Mike Williams wasn't active in this game, but you got a guy in the backfield, Austin Eckler, who's consistent. Hand the ball off to him if Justin Herbert isn't on. But their defense just has been awful. I drafted them in the beginning of the year in fantasy, thinking they're going to be this breakout with Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, but nope, same old Chargers.
I mean, but I'll add to that, though, in that game, Derek Carr has been playing terrible the last few weeks, and it's been blowing my mind that the whole, thing with Devontae Adams going there to play with Carr, that was a big factor in that, then how bad Carr is playing, with the talk of them cutting it at the end of the year to free up cap space. That makes today's game even more questionable. Like, how are you losing to the Raiders like that?
Yeah. A lot of question marks that need to be answered in LA.
Absolutely. A lot of question marks out west in general. They need to be answered. But, moving to the north, I think my pick is got to be a weird one. It's the Vikings and the Jets game today. It meant a lot for both teams only because the Vikings clinched the division with a win. And if the Jets win, they're back in the race in the East and right on top of the Bills for the AFC East. I mean, my biggest thing is that Mike White throws a should-be touchdown pass with a minute and 30 to go to Braxton Berrios, and he drops it. Just falls right out of his hands, and that was the game right there. They get a stop. Defense gets a stop, inside the 5-yard line, forces a punt, and they get all the way back down there, and they can't convert, and they can't get a touchdown. So I think for me that was a big game just because of the circumstances. But of course, I picked the Vikings to make it pretty far. Just a wild guess because they haven't done anything in years. And I said, you know what? Maybe it's a wacky year of football. I said maybe the Vikings will actually be able to compete for a Super Bowl. But
I mean, Jefferson and Cousins are a match made in heaven. It seems like. Then you also got Thielen and everybody else around them. Like it's such a star-studded team on offense.
And they added Hawkinson too. So
yeah, I like that trade for Hawkinson. That was huge.
And got everything.
I mean,
and their defense has been better.
Yeah, I mean the defense is not bad. I'm really curious how long it takes for Kirk Cousins to really get here after his comments last week saying what other swag can he add to himself, which is I'm just waiting for that clip to go up of him having a grill with Justin, and it's just.
It seems like they have a ton of chemistry on that team, and it's worked out a lot for them on and off the field. But yeah, I think the sky's the limit for the Vikings in the NFC. It just seems like the NFC is the weaker of the two conferences, and they seem like they've taken control with it. I think for the East, you can say that the Chiefs and the Bills are pretty well battling it out for top spot, but. Is there anybody that has an outside chance, other than those three teams, that's got a shot at making a Super Bowl run?
Super Bowl run, man, that's tough. I mean, I could see the Dolphins just because of their offense, the way that they've been playing. I mean, if Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are on, I mean, how are you going to defend those guys? I think that their defense was Xavier Howard in the secondary as well is good enough But Super Bowl run, I feel like that's too far. Conference, just don't know if this team go to the Super Bowl, but it's got to be. I know that the Chiefs lost this weekend or today actually against the Bengals, but I feel like the Chiefs still are the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, I would say the Chiefs and the Bills are up there, but if Jamar Chase really is healthy, I think that you got to keep the Bengals in that regard. And then if Lamar can get back before the playoffs, if he's making his debut in the wild card round, I don't like the look for them. But if he can get back, with a week or two left in the regular season, then I think that team can also contend. I mean, really, they need to just throw a few of those AFC teams over to the NFC because after the Garoppolo news, I mean, the NFC is just not looking too hot. I thought that the 49ers could end up challenging the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball now and they're healthy. And, the 49ers just had a huge blow.
Yeah, it's just looking like a Vikings-Eagles NFC championship the way it's going.
Yeah, it seems really really a match made in heaven there between those two teams, and AJ Brown has really hit it off with Jalen Hurts in that Eagles offense. But of course, that's enough of NFL. We got 20 minutes of NFL talk, and on to the fun stuff of the weekend, and that is college football. Some crazy games as to be expected this weekend, and it all starts on a Friday night game with Utah and USC. Utah gets the win, big win, over USC, 47-24, outscoring them after USC scores their last touchdown. Utah goes on a 44-7 run to finish out the game.
Insane.
That's wild. Does it speak to the fact that I guess Utah just has their number, or is it USC is not the team, not the best team that everybody was like, oh, USC's the team in the Pac-12, and they're a lock for the playoff.
I think that it's both, that Utah is a damn good football team, that they have USC's number. I mean, they beat them 42-41 at their place, and now this just has like the Oregon vibes of last year. Whenever Utah swept Oregon, it was close the first game, and then Utah blew the doors off of them. But Cam Rising, I know that, Jacob, I listened to our preseason show just to see, how either good our picks were or bad our picks was. And you had Cam Rising in the Heisman discussion. But, I mean, Utah is a team that I'm just wondering, like, if they don't lose to Florida in the home opener, like, is this in the road opener in Gainesville, like, this Utah team could be knocking on the door of the playoff. But Utah just showed on Friday night what they're capable of. I mean, their defense can just shut you down. Caleb Williams, I know, had all the Heisman hype. I mean, USC controlled the start of this game, like you mentioned. They were up 17-7. I was like, well, this is just looking like Pee Wee football. And then Utah and Kyle Whittingham. I think Kyle Whittingham is like a coach that no one talks about and no one gives enough credit to, because he's been at Utah for 18 years. Most of these coaches are like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm going to a better and bigger program. No. Kyle Whittingham is building up what Utah. I mean, Utah has definitely been a program that I respected. I've been on the Utah train for 2 years, and I'm not hopping off anytime soon. As this, what a win it was for Utah to, create some chaos for the committee as USC got bumped out.
Yeah, I mean, you talking about Kyle Whittingham. Fun fact is that Urban Meyer hired him, 18 years ago, to be his offensive coordinator there, in Utah. And ultimately has taken over as head coach, and arguably is second in line for coach of the year with what's happened. I think Sonny Dykes is there in the conversation for coach of the year. So I think there's a couple of smaller schools, not your true big schools that are always there in the top 10, that really have flourished with these programs. And I think that looking at Utah, they win earlier in the year. They went on a 2-point conversion by Cam Rising. But I think the difference in this game was the run. I think rushing was huge in this game. USC struggled to tackle their running backs. You had a true freshman running back in the backfield for Utah. in this game and absolutely controlled the entire game from front to back, physical running game. And it was great to see that because normally we see them throw the ball and Cam Rising, making plays out of the backfield. So I think it was great to see. I mean, Wade, I'll pose the question to you was that kind of all the hype of USC, all the transfers, to USC, and they come up short? And we're still talking about Caleb Williams being in the Heisman conversation. Is there any chance he's still in the Heisman conversation, with his injury and where he's at right now?
I think so.
He's still there, but whoever wins the Heisman this year, it's just not the same like dominant figure that we're used to seeing. I mean, look at some of the years past, the runner-up. I mean, you could easily say who'd win the Heisman this year. It's just not been I feel like there's not been one dominant player, and all the teams that are good are more of good football teams. I mean, like Stetson Bennett, he's probably not going to win a Heisman, and JJ McCarthy, he's not going to win a Heisman. Blake Corum could have won a Heisman, but he got hurt, and it's already hard enough for a running back to win it. And Max Duggan, he's a great quarterback as well, got his team in the playoff, but he doesn't have the stats to win the Heisman. So I thought Caleb Williams kind of made sense because USC looked like a playoff team. He had the best quarterback stats. So now it's a matter of, do those stats hold enough? Because you're right, the storyline's gone. I mean, they brought in all this talent, and it was a good season. They got to the Rose Bowl. To the Cotton Bowl. So, they get to a New Year's Six bowl game, fell just short from a conference championship, a much better showing from USC than we've seen in years past. So he gets credit for that, but I just don't know if it's Heisman worthy, but it might be this year.
I want to add to that, though, is that a majority of the Heisman voters actually vote prior to the weekend, championship game weekends anyways, because the votes are due today, from my understanding. And most of the time they're supposed to actually vote prior to championship weekend. Generally a handful of the big name people like who have votes generally wait, but typically most of the people who vote prior to conference weekend.
So he might have got it from that regard.
Yeah, I mean that you'll hear that some of these other people. This is from what I've read and been told that they're supposed to vote prior to the championship weekend, but because the votes aren't technically due till today, from my understanding, some people will wait till today to submit them. But it's one of those like weird things. Like, do people do what they're supposed to do and only look at the regular season, or do they wait till conference championship weekend?
We got a mail-in ballot voting issue. It doesn't just apply to politics; it applies to football too.
I mean, this is just something that I'm not positive but that's what I've read and been told, that typically they're supposed to only look at the regular season kind of situation. But anything in sports, what are you supposed to look at versus what you, especially the Heisman, like what you're supposed to consider versus what you actually consider, doesn't always align.
I mean, as much as the Heisman is, the Heisman Trophy is now media driven, we don't even know who's really going to be in those seats come time for the Heisman Trophy. We really have no clue. I mean, got a decent idea of maybe one in Caleb Williams, but I mean, honestly, who sits there with him? Maybe Bryce Young.
It's got to be Duggan and Hooker still. I mean, I know that Hooker got hurt, but he was having like you mentioned, Wade, a dominating performance that was leading to Heisman. But he got injured, and Tennessee got smoked against South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina's just destroying everyone's dreams. They're destroying Hendon Hooker's dream, Clemson's playoff hopes, and then Tennessee's playoff hopes.
I'm going to add this, though. You know who really should be there is that defensive tackle from Georgia. That guy should really be there, let's be honest. If the Heisman is what it's supposed to be, that man is one of the most dominant people in college football, and he should ultimately be there. But it's a Heisman. It's a quarterback's award now, let's be honest. And it's I hate to see it. Like, it's supposed to be the best athlete, and yet some of these players who don't have a good way metrics to measure them as a quarterback, like that guy is one of the best players and is probably a top 5 pick in the draft this year. Oh
yeah, he'll make up for it in the draft.
but it's still kind of sad that the award has lost its true meaning. It's turned into and it's not like there's not enough quarterback awards already. There's like 3 or 4 already besides the Heisman. Let's be honest. Like, really, the Heisman's another one.
So Tyler, you're making the assumption that we're gonna have two of the four people sitting there warming a chair hobble in with crutches on.
Yep, pretty much. You'll have Caleb Williams with his hamstring injury, Hendon Hooker getting out there with crutches since he has a torn ACL,
and potentially
Max
torn.
Duggan, who is like scraped up and beaten up from that K-State game. He can like barely breathe after that. That long touchdown drive that he.
Yeah, it was a rough game for the TCU Horned Frogs. They did lose to K-State in the Big 12 championship. Great game for K-State. They pretty much controlled that game from front to back. From what I saw, you go down and TCU can't convert on the 1 yard line in overtime in order to win it. So I feel like the funny part is we always rag the Big 12 for no defense, and it seems like all these big games, that one defensive play has really won the game for all these Big 12 teams.
Yeah, 2 years in a row in the conference championship.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is crazy, both on the 1 yard line play. So I mean, really, it's all about the defense making one big stand. I wouldn't be mad going over and playing defense in the Big 12 if all I've got to do is stop a team one time during the year at the 1 yard line. I wouldn't be mad at that. With all the NIL money coming in too, I wouldn't be totally upset. But I feel like you move to the other big games in the ACC. You've got Clemson in North Carolina. I mean, Tyler was high on. Yeah, Tyler, you were high on Drake May and his.
Well, you were you were high on North Carolina.
You two are the Carolina boys, and I'm the one.
Don't turn this on me.
Yes.
They look.
I mean, I was high on.
Clemson look good. That's all there is to say, really. I mean, they found their quarterback, Cade Klubniak. Probably should have been starting all year, but Drake May and North Carolina, they can come back next year. I think they will probably see that.
I mean, I knew that they didn't have a shot after they lost NC State with their third string quarterback, and then Georgia Tech, who hasn't really shown a pulse all season. So yeah, you got to give it to Clemson. I mean, putting up 39 points against this North Carolina defense. This defense has been horrible, and stopping this Drake May offense to only 10 points. I mean, this is. I know that they didn't make a playoff, but still win the ACC championship, going to a good bowl game in the Orange Bowl. Still a pretty good season overall if you're a Clemson Tiger fan.
The Orange Bowl is going to be very orange this year.
Yeah, it is.
Matchup.
There's going to be too much orange. You don't know which fan. You don't know what fans are going to be. I mean, Tennessee might as well just check her out. That way we can figure out who's who.
That's going to be like yesterday's. You get the Big 12. It's purple on purple.
Yeah.
I know, but I think they did a good job wearing the black.
TCU home game. Now that I think about it, their campus is only 20 minutes away. And I was like, wow. I was like, no wonder why they had so many fans. I mean, K-State had a lot of fans as well, but yeah, this game, you go from the best game possibly of the year to a blowout and the nightcaps with.
And I really wish I went to that TCU game. I was contemplating. I almost bought tickets. I was like, I should really go. This game sounds like it'd be a really fun, good game. I was like. But then last, I was like, I don't want to wake up and get all the early in the morning. It's like, if that was the 3 o'clock game, I would have been there watching. Would have had a good time. But I hate 11 a.m. games.
Yeah. In moving, Tyler, you mentioned, the nightcap games is really a snoozer, I would say, because Michigan had no problem. Yes. Yeah, Michigan had no problem with Purdue in the second half, but that's been Michigan's season the whole year.
Yeah.
They've really had it close to the half with a lot of teams who have been down at the half with some teams. And in the second half, they just turn it on and blow the doors off of people. And I think I don't think J.J. McCarthy is necessarily a Heisman Trophy candidate this season. I just think it's too early in his career in order for us to talk about that. Maybe in a couple of years, if with the continued success, maybe he could be a Heisman Trophy candidate. But I think that the biggest thing for Michigan is that they were still able to run the football in this game, and that was my biggest question mark, was being able to run the football. And Purdue's defense played okay, for 3 quarters, and I figured it would be the toughest test for Michigan this year. I mean, looking back at the Ohio State game, I thought this would be the toughest because Purdue's really been the giant killer, and their head coach is 3-0 against top 5 teams playing against them the last few years. So I think that if anybody was going to beat Michigan, it was Purdue. So
yeah, they kept it close for a half at least. But after that, it was all Donovan Edwards running the football. But I mean, we want to give like Blake Corum all the Heisman hype, but I feel like this Michigan offensive line is the best in the country. I mean, you can put anyone there in the backfield and they can have a field day. Just look at what Donovan Edwards did. So I think that Edwards, if you're a Michigan fan, you got to feel confident of him in your first matchup against TCU in the college football playoff. But yeah, Purdue gave us a hope in the first half, and then Michigan ran away with it like we all assumed. So they were able to cover in the end and the 20 points. But we'll see if Michigan can make a run for the national title.
Yeah, and for the final conference championship game, I know y'all don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to sit back and listen to this because I don't know how long y'all are going to talk about it. Probably not too long, but I'll sit back and listen to it. But Georgia and LSU, I wasn't able to watch the game, but y'all's thoughts on it, thoughts on the season from both teams as well.
I'm going to lead off by saying there were 2 plays that really kind of broke LSU's back in the game. I feel like if it wasn't, it was the insane box special teams, which is the story of LSU football this year. Special teams woes, the business in the butt killed us all year. And that play, our players not knowing how to react to it, like really, really that happened again in the biggest game of the year for us, and we're still making mistakes on special teams.
A bad snap, and a horrible, kick, and then not knowing what to do. Yeah, it was like a trifecta right there.
And then go ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
I'll keep it short and sweet. I mean, I didn't expect LSU to really keep it close against Georgia, but if you would have told me we put up 30 points and lose by 20, I mean, that just tells how our defense has been playing the past 2 weeks. I mean, giving up 38 points to Texas A&M offense that really hasn't shown a pulse all year. I mean, they only scored 10 points against Auburn. Has struggled in some games as well. I mean, UMass, they only put up 21, and now Georgia puts up a 50-burger on you because they went for a 2-point conversion for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess they're going for the 50-burger, so you can't really trust them. But, yeah, Jaden Daniels, the question was his health going into this one? He got tackled a couple times. And, I mean, they were down 42-17 at that rate. They're like, all right, let's give Garrett Nussmeier a try. I mean, Nuss looked pretty damn good to me. I mean, except for his interception that he thrown. He has to clean up the interceptions, but if he can clean up, the turnover rate, I feel like, Nuss could be the next man in line, especially if Jane Daniels goes pro. But to be honest with you, I feel like Daniels is going to be back next year. I feel like he can just improve his draft stock at least one more year with his team.
Another play, the other play I was going to mention earlier was that insane interception that Georgia got off of Besh's helmet. Like, if you haven't seen that play, Jacob, look it up.
You just smoke and mirrors, man. I keep watching it. I still don't see the pick. Like
the football guys from
Georgia. It definitely bounced off his helmet, and it's just a play. Like Jacob, you said you weren't able to watch the game. Look up.
Just watch that play. It's crazy.
Look at that play. It's one that, like I said, there's 2 plays to me that broke our back. That's just demoralizing to have that happen to you. And I love Besh. He's a great dude. He's one of the guys who I got really close with in the spring, which I was not really trying to get close with any of the young guys, really, because I was getting ready to leave. But he was one of those guys that he's such a good dude, and he's been having so many good games this year. And I hate it for a guy to be involved in something like that. It's just, it's like really anybody except for Besh. Like, really.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. That play, I mean, LSU had climbed back in it. They shook off the field goal, which I'll admit I didn't know that was the rule. I thought it could only be returned if it didn't pass the line of scrimmage.
The ball has to stop for it to be dead, so it was still moving at the time. But I'll add just one more thing. I mean, LSU fans probably had a sense of hope before that happened, and then they could have been up 3-0, and then they were down 7-0, and then Keyshawn Butte gets a big touchdown, 7-7. But after that, it was all Georgia. But really the one thing I noticed was that was like the least amount of LSU fans I've ever seen travel for SEC championship.
Hard to get those tickets.
They didn't you have to. I guess they just knew that we didn't stand a chance, especially after losing A&M last week. But that was at least like 90-10 split for Georgia LSU fans.
Georgia's going to price people out of it with it being in their backyard. What do y'all think about the idea of cycling it around? Like when Nashville gets their new stadium.
I mean,
New Orleans.
I'm going to add this to you. This is something that SEC people, I believe that, and this is, and don't me saying this is me being a homer, but
go ahead.
It makes too much sense. Every SEC championship game should be in Nashville. It's the most central location for the entirety of the conference.
I'm okay with that.
Oklahoma and Texas.
And I'm saying, especially though, because once the new Titan Stadium's done, perfect. You have a good baseball park at First Tennessee Park where the Sounds play. Yes, Hoover, whatever.
No, I'm good with ditching that.
And then basketball and everything else, you can either use Bridgestone or the new Titan Stadium. Both of them are good indoor stadiums. I mean, especially for the basketball, they already do the women's tournament. I believe is there every year now at Bridgestone.
They've played the men's there.
Yeah,
too.
they do. South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean,
in Greenville.
I mean, but it's one of the things where they've been Nashville's hosted that kind of stuff. It's a city that fans will want to go to.
Yeah,
it's something that is going to get people to travel to, like, SEC championship, football. Fans will, both fan bases are going to want to go there, spend the whole weekend. It just makes sense, and it's more centrally located for everybody. There's the airport is about to be expanded. It's in the process of being made bigger, easier travel, which I'm dreading going through there in 2 weeks to go home for Christmas and stuff. But the airport's bigger, nicer. Yes, there's no Atlanta, but still there's flights easy to get to from everywhere in the conference. It makes too much sense, and I'm like, especially with football, getting football there, everything there, because you're at that point. Because think about when Texas and Oklahoma join, how far away is Atlanta for everything? That's an additional 4 hours from Nashville.
Yeah.
So
right now it works, but once you bring in those teams, it definitely.
That's just me ranting on that because I had this rant the other day.
I think that's a good point. We already see SEC fans take over Nashville. Just look whenever opposing teams play at Vanderbilt.
Exactly. And I don't want y'all to think that's just me being homer, being from Nashville and loving my hometown.
No, I think that's a great proposal. I feel like it needs to change. You can't just have like Georgia, who's probably going to make it every year, just have a automatic home game. So, but
see, I was going to tweet that out during the game, but then it would look like I'm just an angry LSU fan.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about Vanderbilt having home field advantage.
Right. I was just about to say that. Except baseball. Baseball.
Like every 1 in 20 years. But yeah, they wouldn't even get a home field advantage anyways, because like at their even home stadium, they don't even sell out.
And I'm also going to add this for baseball though, is that in Nashville though, because you have Vanderbilt's Park, which is it's a small park, but it's still a good park. You also have First Tennessee Park, which will give you 2 good fields to play on.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest issue right now with Hoover is you got 1 field to play on.
Right.
That you're gonna have. Yes, it's gonna be a different play style because you'll have one's turf and one's traditional, but still, and they're really not far from each other too, where you could actually make it more feasible. Plus, if it rains, play at Vanderbilt. You can play in the rain anyways.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten has gone to that with the whole right in the middle, split it right down the middle type thing with the East and the West. They've it's been in Indianapolis for quite some time in Lucas Oil Stadium, and they found a pretty good stadium there. Your only teams close to there is Purdue, being in the state, but very rarely do we see them in there. Normally, we'll see a Wisconsin or somebody like that over in the West. So I think it's a good middle ground for them. I think the SEC, I think they should do it, and they might do it. We just don't know. Especially with Georgia's success. I don't want to say Georgia's success would be the reason for them moving it, and it just needs to be geographically a more centralized location. But at the same time, we've got everybody moving to different conferences that don't belong in these conferences. So who knows at this point?
Yeah, like imagine USC makes it to the Big Ten championship and they have to travel back to Indianapolis.
I just like the idea of rotating it, like give an economic boost to your different markets within the conference and give South Carolina fans a taste of Houston and give Oklahoma fans a taste of New Orleans and Louisiana fans a taste of Nashville and Atlanta.
Mhm.
Just kind of like it's a cool region. Highlight the cities. You got a few NFL teams.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Then
I think
it's not predetermined.
But you got to do it as a dome, though. I mean, and there's only really 3 domes in the South. Really 4 right now. It's only 4 at the moment. 5 with Nashville, and you can't really do Dallas, which is in the footprint technically, because that's where the.
Yeah, I'd say Houston,
New
New Orleans, Atlanta, and Nashville would be a good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
But even Houston's really stretching the footprint, though. I feel like for the East at least.
They got a lot of fans down there, though.
Well, it'll change too.
population
I
center.
mean, you're adding 2 teams from Texas, so I mean, you really that wouldn't be bad. You're still within the bubble of those teams if that was the case.
As long as you're in the South, you're in the bubble.
Yeah, same thing goes for the Big Ten. I think there's plenty of options to move it all the way around if you want to. Indianapolis is an option. It is cold, but you've got options in Cleveland, Cincinnati,
Detroit, baby. Ford
No, that's
Field.
the Mac. You can't touch the Ford Field. It's the Mac.
No, hear me this. Play
The
in
Mac can play
Denver.
at halftime.
Play in Denver. Know the country.
Yeah,
Make it
play in
easy
the
on the
Field of
West Coast.
Dreams.
Or I'm saying just play it mile high. It's in the middle now. It's if you
Yeah, now that you got
if you
West
average
Coast
out the
baseball
geography of the
tournament,
entire conference, that's
dream.
probably the most center point.
The Big Ten championship at the Rose Bowl.
No, it should be oh my gosh.
Mile high. Play it mile high. It's in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
It seems
Or Arrowhead. Play it Arrowhead.
See, I
It's the
wouldn't be
middle.
mad at that. I wouldn't be mad if they played it in Kansas City. I think that's a good spot for it. But we spent a long time on that. But
It was a good exercise, though. We learned our geography.
It was a fun conversation.
It was educational.
The offseason.
Yes, educational section of the show. Moving to the recap of course, for our upset picks. Some success this weekend, some not success, both sides.
Hey, it was
but
hard
of course,
to pick, We were picking against champions. There was
Yes.
no lame duck sitting there for us to shoot.
No, and of course, it is sponsored by Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company. If you guys want to go head over to www.buffbrew.com, go check out all their goodies and their beer and their food. Hear great things about it. And we still got to get out there for a show eventually over in that neck of the woods. So we'll be doing that real soon, hopefully, once the new year starts. But if you guys want to go ahead over there and see all of their specialty beer, I think they're running some for the Christmas time right now, from what I've seen. But if you guys want to go check all that out, it's at www.buffbrew.com. Getting to our upset picks, Tyler, what were our upset picks? I don't even remember our upset picks.
Okay.
But I think I remember mine. Mine was I picked Utah to win the game over USC, and that did come true. Thank God. So that was a 1-0 start going into the weekend.
Yeah, and then after that, the 11 o'clock game on Saturday, we went to 2-0 myself. I've been on a heater with these upseller picks. I think I'm on like a 4-week streak. I had number 10 Kansas State over number 3 TCU. I was on edge for most of the time. I was wanting like TCU to win so that they can, still make the playoff and not Bama not backdooring their way. But ultimately, it didn't matter. So it was a win-win scenario for me. So K-State over TCU made us 2-0, and then we finished off the season with 2-2. Chet 14 for LSU did not get the job done over number 1 Georgia, and Wade's picked North Carolina. Poor old North Carolina couldn't get the job done over Clemson.
Well, it was worth a shot, but I think Clemson found their quarterback of the future, so they just took it and ran with it. And UNC kind of stumbled down the stretch, but Drake May will be back.
Yeah, and we'll get to Clemson's quarterback situation coming up here in a minute. But of course, for the news for our college football, first biggest thing of the weekend after Deion Sanders and his Jackson State team goes in and wins the SWAC championship. He has decided to sign the contract with Colorado University to be their next head coach. What are y'all's thoughts on it? Because my first initial thought is, what the hell is he doing? Because it is a busted program. It is upside down, and it could be a long time. But I want to get y'all's thoughts, of course, on this interesting move.
It's
Money
gonna be
talks, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be a multi-year rebuild. I hope that Deion's ready for it because, I mean, it's not going to be like Jackson State where you can go 12-0, 12-0, and 12-0 every year and make it to the Celebration Bowl and, win the SWAC. I mean, this is a different brand. I mean, the Pac-12, I feel like even with you losing USC and UCLA, you have other teams. We saw what Washington did this season. They went 10-2. Oregon State was another team as well. They went 9-3. We've seen what Utah is doing, what Oregon's doing. So, I feel like Colorado is a bottom dweller right now, along with the likes of Stanford, with David Shaw resigning from that program as well. So the Colorado, I mean, let's see if you get some talent. I mean, he has a name brand, everyone's going to want to play with Deion. We'll see if he gets his son, do we see Travis Hunter transferring with him, as well. So we'll see what NIL DLC comes up with out there in Boulder. But I'm excited to see what Coach Prime can do out there in the West. But we'll see. I don't know. I have no expectations.
I mean, I think it makes sense for both sides. I mean, Colorado, you have nothing to lose. We wouldn't be talking about college football in Colorado if this didn't happen. And if you're Deion Sanders, I get it because you get a Power 5 offer on the table. I know that Cincinnati offered him as well. That technically is a Power 5 job now. That probably would have been a little easier of a situation to step into. I don't know. I don't know if it's much of a fit at all, but I mean, that's a pretty big jump, from Jackson State, which really, you can call it an FCS program, but they kind of sit in their own little world with the SWAC. They don't participate in the FCS playoffs, so we don't even know if they're truly the best FCS team. So for him to jump all the way into the Power 5 with only like 3 or 4 years of head coaching experience, that's quite the jump. So we'll see how it works out.
I'm going to say, though, I don't think it's a good fit at all. What makes people think that his personality and the way he is going to fit in that part of the country? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird geography fit.
I mean, he's a very Southern kind of person. The way he acts and the way he behaves. I mean, he went to Florida State. I feel like more of the way he is, he fits more with coaching in the South. Like I honestly kind of figured he may go to the USF job maybe at the first. That seemed like a really good fit, stepping stone for me. That's
a good stepping stone.
I mean, to me, that's a mid-major school. I mean, it's in the American Conference. I feel like that would have been a better step than Colorado, which is one of the bottom 10 teams in the country in FBS. It consistently is that. Just seems like it just seems like a bad fit. Like, what leads him to think maybe there's some NIL money going for him there, maybe, but still, and even when the rumors are he'd have to be insane to take that job. There's nothing about that job makes me think he's going to be successful, and he'll be gone 2 years, 3 years at most. He'll be gone. If they don't fire him, he'll quit, I think.
Well, Wade, you brought something off that got a light bulb click in my head, but it is that, it's a little lower level than this is, but LSU with the whole Brian Kelly situation, Brian Kelly really had to come in and, quote unquote, win the fans over and win the organization and the fan base over. You mentioned Cincinnati for Deion, and I think that being an issue, I think him not going there would be number one. It's going to be hard. It would be hard to win that fan base over with Luke Fickell being there and with all the success that they had. To go to somebody like Deion Sanders, I think he has an easier time winning over and kind of gaining the trust of the fan base from Colorado because they currently have nothing. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, if they don't have anything, so I mean, something's better than nothing. And if Deion is that person, then it is. I think he did move too fast. I was looking for him to go to a Group of 5 school next from there because that FCS jump most of the time would be a Group of 5 school. Just seems too early. We'll see how long it lasts on the West Coast for him. I mean, we've seen a lot of these coaches go out west and never come back in one of those cases. I mean, that happened to Chip Kelly, and he's out there for the rest of his life, held hostage, basically. So I feel like it's interesting for Deion to do that. It
I like
might
the
be
US
just because he's a part of Barstool and it is Boulder, Colorado, so maybe that had something to do with it. But it seems like Deion is going to find a new home, and I watched a couple of the videos that Colorado put out there, like their hype stuff for Deion and everything else.
It's pretty second rate.
it was pretty weird.
I will
I
say
think the
though,
USF job would have made the most sense, like Neil said. I think that would have been a good stepping stone. You got the Florida connection, and then when the Florida job or Florida State or Miami job opens up in the near future, then you jump on that. But he's going to have a hard time proving that he's worth another Power 5 job, in my opinion, based on the success or the lack of that he'll have at Colorado.
but you never know though. He could go there and pull off the miracle. You
The
never
conference
know.
does allow you to go from top to bottom pretty quickly. I mean, look at Washington State and Oregon State. You know, those are two teams playing for bowl games.
USC, to be honest.
Yeah, and USC climbed up quickly again. So
Let's look at Tulane. Look at Tulane, 2-10
Yeah.
last year, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
they flipped the script and gone 10-2. I mean, that's another program there. They're not a Power 5, but they're still a pretty good program that's gone up quite a bit. Chet said he's in our comments tonight, even though he's not here. He said, just watch Deion intro to the team. He said, made a very interesting impression telling players to transfer to make room for his guys. I was going to bring that up with that. You know, are we going to see a lot of his Jackson State transfers follow him and all get on the Greyhound bus and all go out together to Colorado?
I think more transfer portal players, like guys that he wants to bring in.
I'm going to ask this. Bold of Deion to already get the NCAA on his back day one.
Yeah.
If he actually said that, the NCAA is going to be already on his doorstep. Because that is
It's the Wild West, Neil. There are no rules.
But you just can't tell people to transfer like that. That's one of the few big no-nos that still exist in the NCAA.
Yeah, because they're supposed to have their scholarship guaranteed and to graduate, and because we got to preserve academics and all that.
I'm impressed because I'm not surprised if he said that, if he really did, but that to me is a bold move starting off like that.
If he's serious about the job, he will not bring more than 3 Jackson State players with him. I mean, as big of a jump as we talked about it from a coach to go up there, think about the players. I mean, he brought in some talent. Travis Hunter, he could go start at Colorado, sure. Maybe his son, Deion Sanders, he could probably start at Colorado because they don't have anything. But beyond that, there's just a different kind of player that you need to compete at the Power 5 level. And if he wants to have success, he doesn't need to play favorites. He doesn't need to bring in his friends. He needs to just hit the transfer portal, bring in Power 5 talent that he can really work with, and then really swing for the fences on recruits.
Okay, so Chet is elaborating on his statement there. This makes more sense now. He said it was more of if you aren't here to buy into the plan, then you better transfer because I've got guys who can fill in. I can. That sounds a little better there. It's more of he doesn't want guys to just get up and leave because of it being Deion Sanders. And I think a lot of the hype, and this might be the thought with some of the players just trying to get inside of their minds for a second, being that it's going to be more than about me and about the team and the program. It's going to be more about Deion Sanders and his success. And some guys might not be along for the ride in that situation. Some people weren't along for the ride in that situation in Jackson State, and they dipped. So I think. But
also at the same time, though, but every new coach says that to his team, like, hey, that you better buy into my system. I mean, look at what has been publicly said about Brian Kelly at LSU. The way he's been very vocal about getting guys into his system. That's exactly what every coach does. Every coach comes in, especially with teams that have had major disciplinary and leadership issues. Yeah, that's pretty. If that's more how he said it, then it's not that big of a deal. Then it's more normal.
Yeah, and I think the last thing on Deion is that I will be very upset if Deion does not ride Ralphie the Buffalo into the stadium on the first home game. I will be very upset.
Ralphie the Buffalo some ice.
Is he gonna get Ralphie a grill?
Yeah, he's gonna ice out the Buffalo.
South of Buffalo running out there.
Guys, they need a new stadium. He's got to get on that. Maybe they just brought him in to pitch and talk to boosters and get a new stadium, because that thing, they showed an overhead shot in that very lackluster hype video that Jacob mentioned, and it kind of looks like it's falling apart.
It is, yeah.
It is a
looks
very
like
old
it's
stadium.
cracking. Yeah, it's sitting on the fault line currently.
We need to ask Ryan about it. To be honest with you, he might know more than any of us would.
Yeah.
Ryan would definitely, and I'm curious his take on this whole thing as a Colorado alumni. Let's see what he. I might need to text him to see what he has to say about it all.
He might
Yeah, we'd love to hear
go
from
out
him.
there for some games.
He might.
But with the whole coaching carousel already started and moving around as usual, so has the transfer portal, with a lot of interesting people moving around. Drew Pine is now in the transfer portal as well. DJU decided he's going to the transfer portal based on the success.
Is that official?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Wow.
Based on the success.
One day
of
later.
their
Where
quarterback.
does he go? Coastal Carolina.
Hold on. Can I make one more comment about Deion before I forget?
Sure.
And it ties into your transfer portal thing. I was just scrolling on TikTok on my For You page, and one of Deion's players at Jackson State declared for the transfer portal in a TikTok. Like 2 hours before.
Is that going to be the new thing of guys just, hey, the next commit, like the commitment videos of the transfer portal videos are all going to be on TikTok now? Oh,
He
God.
used to
Everybody
filter
join my
too.
TikTok. Everybody join my TikTok live so I can declare where I'm playing.
It wasn't
my
even
Power
that.
5
He used-
football.
He used a sound, like one of those trending like filters and sounds, and it was like him floating away on a boat, and he's like me floating on my way to the transfer portal. It's like, dude,
That's funny. That's pretty
he
good.
hadn't even officially announced the job yet. But anyways, yes, a lot of people in the transfer portal in this new age of football.
Yeah, you got basically three main quarterbacks. Mentioned two, and the third one being Graham Mertz from Wisconsin is transferred. Tyler had an interesting take that Drew Pine would be the next quarterback for Wisconsin.
Yep.
Based on the move that they've made.
He just looks like a
with head coach.
prototypical Wisconsin quarterback to begin
He does
with.
seem like one.
Might be a little bit of a collusion effort there between Fickle and Pine, because why would Pine enter the portal that quickly?
Yep.
And there's one other thing with being in the Big Ten with Iowa. I think that they're going to have to get a transfer quarterback.
You already got one.
I think they got your
You
boy.
got Creed McNamara, your
They
boy.
did. That's right. They did.
Will he actually be able to score a touchdown now?
Dang, he committed to them before they even played for the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, that's when you know that your
He at
time
least
is
could have
up.
stuck around and possibly got a ring and then dipped.
And on that note,
I want to ask you
third
this
string-
though about
Go
this
ahead.
whole portal thing. If your coach leaves, do you have any issue with players leaving that program?
No, because college is a short period of time, and these guys got a small opportunity to make something for themselves. So I get where a lot of this comes from, but I think a lot of them jump ship too early. I mean, you also only need one good season of college football to get drafted in the top 5. We've seen it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean,
Wait,
I've just always been
Will
on that
Levis?
from the start about like people who commit and the coach who gets fired and whatnot. I've always been like
Shoot.
that you go to a school because the coach and the scheme they run. Like I've always been like, oh, cool, coach leaves. I don't expect you to stick around. That makes too much sense. Like I don't. And I've talked to people who are like, oh no, they go to that school for the school, not the team. And I'm like, what? No.
I could see it both ways, but I mean, I don't fault the guys. But on that, kind of to your point, the third string quarterback in a lot of these situations is one of the most important people on the team, because not only do you have guys that will transfer before the season's even over, you have other guys like UCF's quarterback. Their backup said that he wasn't going to play in their conference championship game because it would burn his red shirt. And it's like, your job at that point is to be the backup quarterback. Like, sorry,
LSU did it last year.
So, some of these guys like Michigan, they're a playoff team. I don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be on the playoff roster. So they have to have a faith in their third string quarterback to come in. If I didn't mean McCarthy, I meant McNamara. If McCarthy goes down, then the third string guy is going to have to come in. So that's the part of it that causes trouble to me. I think that you shouldn't be able to announce anything or recommit until like after the new year at least.
Wait, there was one exception to what you said about a player, having, that one season and being pretty much a first round pick. He had an okay year with Penn State, an okay year with Kentucky. Can you guess this player? And he's still getting top 5.
Will Levis.
Yes. Ding,
Hey,
ding,
at
ding.
least he had 3 years of experience. I mean, look at like Trey Lance. He played like 15 collegiate games and he was a top 3 pick.
Yeah, and
Carson Wentz too.
Yeah, and then you go and get your foot turned.
Look at Mitch
180
Trubisky,
degrees.
1 season. It didn't really work out, but got his money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all of this talk reminds me of what happened today in regards to what our playoff is going to look like. So we have our top 4 for the playoff that came out at noon today, and the top 4 consist of Georgia at 1, Michigan stays there at 2 with their win. TCU loses in overtime, but still stays at 3. And Ohio State has kicked USC to the curb and said that we're taking that 4th spot. So per usual, it is 3 teams that are basically SEC or Big Ten, and then you've got your one little happy Big 12 team that's holding on barely.
That wasn't even a Big 12 champion. When's the last time we've seen that?
I couldn't even tell you.
It has been a little while, so that begs me the question: did our fun little committee that gets paid way too much money to not do their job make the right call?
Honey Boo Boo get it right?
Did they get it right?
I'm gonna say this though. I'm just in the opinion. The reason why TCU didn't drop to 4 was they didn't want to have a rematch of Ohio State, Michigan.
Exactly.
They wouldn't admit to it. They wouldn't admit to it.
They wouldn't admit to it, but
that's what
anybody knows that's the case.
The back of my hand that they wouldn't do that.
They don't admit to much of anything these days.
No, and I was and I saw yesterday where they were doing that, and I was like, I live like 10 minutes from where their committee's at. I was almost tempted to go figure out where they were at yesterday.
Drop an AirPod in there, Neil.
I was like, part of me was like, I'm 15 minutes from where they're at. I could definitely sneak in there, have some kind of halfway looking credential and pull something off if I really want to.
You probably have some credentials from back in the day.
None of them that look anywhere good enough for that, but still, it's one of those things like, I was like, oh, it's a Gaylord and Grapevine. Oh, that's like 15 minutes from the house. It's close enough to figure out how to get around there.
I think they got it right.
But no.
I mean, it's hard to put Ohio State above TCU, and TCU didn't get to sit on their couch yesterday like Ohio State did. So I get it from that standpoint. But, they're going to – I like where the direction's going with the 12 teams, and then the top 4 have to be conference champions. I think that preserves the importance of the championship games. But, it's a little disheartening when, like, teams are getting punished for losing in a conference championship game, and a team like Ohio State gets to slide right in. And honestly, I think they'll give Georgia a fight.
That's another thing. I feel like how many years out of this the way that the college football playoff has been around, that Ohio State has backdoored their way. I can think 2016, Penn State was a conference champion, 10-2, and they beat Ohio State in the regular season. I know that Ohio State had 1 loss, but the head-to-heads don't matter. Like, just look at what happened for this last several weeks with Alabama and Tennessee. I know that, Tennessee's 2 losses aren't great, or 2 blowout, losses, but you had the head-to-head. You beat the team on the field. You should be ahead of them. I mean, they did a good job, with ranking Florida State over LSU in that time. They did a good job with Oregon State over Oregon, but it's just bias over Alabama. I was just like holding on for dear life that, TCU, even with the loss, even you look at the 2 resumes combined, TCU has the way better resume than Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's best win is Penn State right now and then Notre Dame. But TCU already had 5 top 25 wins on their resume. But, I mean, if they would have got blown out, sure, you could have put Alabama and Tennessee in the discussion. But they only lost pretty much on not getting a single yard. So you can't really fault them in that. And I definitely get why they kept them there to avoid the matchup, because that would also do a disheartening on Michigan. So they'll give them TCU and Georgia gets Ohio State. So I think the playoff committee did it right. I mean, for once, we'll get 2 Big Ten teams in here. So Mr. Big Ten himself can root on his fellow Big Ten comrades.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion, unlike you guys, where it's SEC all the time, and if it's an SEC team, we're gonna root for them. That is not us in the Big Ten because Penn State will never root for Michigan nor
That's why I
Ohio
brought it
State
up.
to do any of the sort. I feel like it's bad because not a single team in the West is ranked, and there's 3 teams in the East that are ranked in the top 10, and that's an issue in itself. Maybe they need to not realign it, but get rid of divisions and just take your 2 best teams
Yes.
at that point, because you would eliminate the chance of Ohio State and Michigan, both making it to a playoff in that sense because of them playing against each other if they are the 2 best teams at the end of the day. Kind of like the Big 12 does it. I think that's how it should be done across the board. Get rid of your divisions.
And that's what the SEC is looking to do as well. I mean, Greg Sankey has said multiple times that they're going to go away from the divisions and just take the top 2.
Well, and look, if you do it like that, you could have it all, like, at the end of the day, all of this is determined by the playoff rankings, not head-to-heads, like you said, Tyler. So I don't care that LSU beat Alabama or that Tennessee beat Alabama and LSU. If the committee's got Alabama at number 6 and LSU at number 14, it should have been Georgia versus Alabama yesterday. And I know that's tough for people to hear, and maybe they need to redo the committee just so that we have suitable rankings, but there should be number 1 versus number 2 in every conference playing. And if you're not playing on that final weekend of college football, you're ineligible for the playoff. And so if you're number 3 in the SEC or the Big Ten, tough luck. You're not a top 4 team in the country. And that way we have a level playing field to pull from. And I think if you got to that point, I don't even think you need a 12-man playoff. I think that in a way, it's kind of a de facto 12-man playoff because you have all the top teams playing, to win their region, quote unquote, and then take the top 4 and let them battle it out. But yeah, I think Jacob's right. You gotta just take the top 2 teams. I mean, Purdue, it's nice that they won their half, but it threw off the landscape of college football because we needed to see that Michigan-Ohio State rematch yesterday.
We might, if they both make it all the way.
I just think that's so low of a chance, knowing how good Georgia's played. Ohio State has struggled. They're banged up still. I mean, speaking of, we'll get into it, but now that Tyler's gotten into it, and I think first things first, well, closing out with this, Wade, I do agree. Maybe the 12 team isn't right, and I've been so high on the 12
team. I think
it
is. It's right for the group of 5 that way every year they have a chance.
Sure. I think, but I still think there's another way for them to incorporate the group of 5 in that sense, because if you just take the group of 5 as a whole and you view it as one conference within itself, take your 2 best teams within the group of 5, because really that's what we see every year anyways. Within the top 25, we see 2 good group of 5 teams, possibly 3 at some times. I mean, your 2 best this season were really Tulane and UCF. So, I mean, really, those are your 2 teams from there. You've got 2 teams from your other ones, and that's 12 teams right there. So I still think you can do it. Just conference-wise, it makes more sense to take your top 2 teams across the board.
Just make for better games and less blowouts and make it more meaningful.
It makes everyone play the same number of games, and it just there's no what ifs, like if for Southern Cal, they're sitting there crying because they did play their game and Ohio State didn't. But if Southern Cal can't beat Utah, then they don't need to be in the playoff. But Ohio State can't just sit there and say, oh yeah, we would have won yesterday. Like,
no, got beat like by 25 at home the week prior. Like, oh, you get another chance. Now you have Georgia.
Yeah. So I think that's how it's got to be.
And it also gives teams a chance to play each other more within the conference, because some teams just don't play each other, period.
Yeah.
And it gives an opportunity for teams to play each other that you don't see. So within the conference, at least, I mean,
And with them getting so big now, that makes a lot of sense.
But you also hear, as you hear from Sankey's also said that with the addition of the 2 teams, their goal is to make it where you play everybody in a 4-year span.
I think it should be less than that.
Really, you should play it. You should play it every stadium in a 4-year span.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is somebody, like obviously in my time, I went to everywhere but 2 schools in the SEC. I played everybody, but I never got to go to South Carolina and I never got to go to Georgia.
And then take away the neutral site, the Florida, Georgia, because those kids don't get to experience, a game in the No, I just don't understand.
I say keep those. Like I'm cool with those keeping those. Like to me, I really want to see the Red River Shootout stay with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. I love those games are fun to me if it's a true neutral site, not one of these halfway neutral sites. But I'm also like a fan of like a true neutral site, not like LSU playing New Orleans. To me, that's kind of a dumb neutral site. Like do a true neutral site, like like the shootout's a true neutral site. The cocktail part of the true.
That's what I hate even more. Like not true home and homes. Oh, let's go play in Orlando and New Orleans.
And speaking of that, did y'all realize that LSU and Florida State are both ending the year at that stadium, and they're both starting the year at that stadium next year?
Yep, that's a storyline to keep in mind all season.
That's kind of funny how both teams are ending in the Cheez-It sponsored bowl.
The Cheez-It Bowl.
Which one is the Cheez-It Bowl? I've gotten
the Florida State one. They're like the Cheez-It Bowl. The Citrus Bowl is sponsored now by Cheez-It. It's like
because I saw an LSU Cheez-It shirt.
I thought it was B-Dubs sponsoring it, but
B-Dubs sponsor. It's changed names every year. It was B-Dubs in 2016. Then it was
VRBO.
No. Then it was Anderson's. Overton's. Then it was VRBO. But VRBO they're the new Fiesta Bowl sponsor.
Some of these sponsors are just dumb.
So VRBO.
How about the Sports Scramble Bowl? I think we could win the rights.
Jimmy Kimmel's got his own bowl game.
The best one though is the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl.
Yes,
by far.
Or the Raycon Independence Bowl now.
Yeah, that one's changed hands a good bit. Walk-ons gave it up.
It didn't do them good.
I think Chet says he thinks we could swing that.
Hey, Shreveport would be pretty centrally located, relatively.
Where do we host this bowl game?
In
Nashville.
We take over the Shreveport game.
No, I don't want that.
Blake Laffey.
We could build a stadium on the Mississippi Gulf Coast and put it in Biloxi. There we go.
Right. Makes sense.
Good luck getting someone to insure it.
Right, exactly. Just so
we could just play at a high school stadium. That's pretty much where the Independence Bowl is played anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
She played Mobile at the Senior Bowl Stadium. Why not?
Hey, the new stadium.
Yeah,
they've got the Linden Tree.
They already got the Linden Tree Bowl. We have to go to somewhere where there's a good tour enough.
Baton Rouge Bowl, baby.
There's a good enough.
We got Tiger Stadium ready to go.
Hey, can we get some storage units for our people? That way they can have a room and board to stay in.
Yeah, just so some guys in Qatar. I think that brings us into what is y'all's bowl game that you're looking forward to the most? Once we get here in the bowl season coming up.
There's a lot of good ones.
Oh.
And I'm gonna have to scroll, so someone else go.
I'm gonna go Sugar Bowl. Honestly, I think the way K-State's played, that could be a decent game against Alabama.
I'm looking forward to the Tennessee Clemson Bowl, aka the South Carolina wrecked my playoff hopes and dreams bowl.
Yes.
Because if South Carolina didn't beat one of those two teams, I think they would have an argument to get into the playoff over Ohio State. So it's interesting to see how those teams will show up. I think that we'll have a good matchup because both quarterbacks have something to prove, like Joe Milton, he's got the physical traits to be an NFL quarterback. So if he kind of shows out against Clemson, he might get a combine invite. And then Cade Klubnik, he's going to be Clemson's guy going forward. So I think that's going to be a really good game in Miami.
I think Jacob and I will agree on this one. It's the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, Penn State versus Utah. This is going to be a tough one to pick for me. I'm going to spend the next few weeks just thinking about who am I going to pick in this game. But I feel like this is going to be the best Rose Bowl I mean, that we've had in a while. I mean, we had the game of the year last year, so I think that it's going to be hard to top that one. So Utah storyline, they're going to try and get revenge on last year. Ohio State beat them, but Penn State's trying to, avenge some demons in their last Rose Bowl. I keep bringing it up to Jacob, but this will be my last time that I bring it up. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good game. These are two teams that I've been high on all year, so they'll get to battle out at the granddaddy of them all.
I'm gonna one up you, Tyler. For me, it's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with in that one. It's South Carolina versus Notre Dame.
That was a good
Can I
game.
please say
really good
where
game.
you know what I saw? I saw on Barstool South Carolina Twitter. They said the Cox versus the Catholics.
It's a perfect for that game. No, I think South Carolina has a lot of momentum from where they finished the season at. It should be a really good game against Notre Dame, who's a very strong defensive team. So that's mine. Notre Dame right now opens as a 3.5, but that means nothing as of right now. So
bet the Gamecocks.
Yeah,
that'll be a good matchup for sure. South Carolina will get some fans down there.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Moving towards this is our fun segment. This is my favorite segment of the show. And that being the who got that dog in them picks of the week. And of course, they're presented by Piper Golf. If you guys want to check out what they have to offer in their golf balls, they have them for every level golfer out there, from your tour professional all the way down to your beginner. If you guys want to go check out what they have to offer, hit them up at piper.golf/sportscramble10. You guys can use that code there at checkout and go get yourself some golf balls. Try them out. They are tour quality balls at the non-tour price. So check those out at piper.golf/sportscramble10. Who got that dog in them picks? Tyler, I know you want to roll the intro because it's like your favorite thing to do. So I'll let you roll the intro.
I'll click it away. Here we go.
And opening with who got that dog in him. I know Tyler is anticipated for his who got that dog in him because he knows exactly who it is. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more either for what I just saw a couple hours ago down there at the Blenda. Jose Alvarado coming off of the bench, 38 points, 8 triples, and the Pelicans' big win at home. So Jose Alvarado, Grand Theft Alvarado got that dog in him. Once again, that's my second overall selection from him. So Jose Alvarado.
All right. Joe Burrow's got that dog in him. I mean, who says the dog can't – it doesn't always have to be an underdog. It could be a big dog. And Joe Burrow's just that. So he stood up Mahomes at home today, not literally because they're never on the field at the same time. I think it is comical how we pit quarterback matchups. Like, they're pretty independent. Neither one can affect each other. But he did outduel him in a sense and really just controlled that game down the stretch. So I enjoyed watching it and got to go with Burrow.
I guess I'm going to have to go with Kansas State as a whole. That team, for how good TCU's been in those close games, how many times have they had their back against the wall and been able to pull it off? Kansas State managed to not let them pull it off for once. That's pretty impressive as a whole. So many games TCU should have lost, but didn't. But then for K-State to finally do it in overtime, it takes a lot to be able to, beat the team that put all those moves on everybody.
Yeah, and for my who got that dog in them, I'm gonna go with Cam Rising and the Utah Utes. Absolute domination against the USC Trojans. Basically showed them up that your transfers don't matter, and take yourself to the Big Ten already.
And he said that in the post game.
Yes, yeah. So I think that it was a great win for them. A 23-point win over a team that's ranked 4 in the country. Kind of a too much hype number 4 in the country. They got shown the door twice this year by the same team. So good on Utah for doing that, and a good season for them going to the Rose Bowl. Next thing is the World Cup, guys. I know it's kind of sad. I know. I don't know if y'all were up watching it. I was up watching it.
I watched USA on
Yeah.
I
Saturday
was up.
morning.
Yeah. So
I got
referencing
up.
USA, they can't get it done against the Netherlands. Of course, the Netherlands is a
Tough draw,
powerhouse
tough
team.
draw.
Yeah. So I think. Yeah, it was luck of the draw for them with that one. I think that they got a bad team there with that
I
round
think
of
I have the
16.
Netherlands going to the championship against Brazil.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
I think overall, I mean, it was. I mean, you got to think about it. This is a very young team. I mean, there's a reason that this team hasn't been to the World Cup in 8 years, and to make it out of that group stage. I mean, to get the draw with England, that was huge. You know, I know that game one didn't go so well. You're up 1-0, and then Wales scores on the 86th minute with Gareth Bale getting that penalty. But you're able to beat Iran 1-0 over Christian Pulisic over that goal. But it was a a tough draw with Netherlands. And even if you win that game, you have Argentina waiting on your doorstep. And then if you win that game, you have Brazil. So it was going to come to the end eventually. So all in all, the Netherlands just put it on you. I mean, they went up 2-0 at the half. You scored in the 65th minute, and then after that, the Netherlands answered right back. So the Netherlands, I mean, it's going to get a test against Argentina. That was my pick to win it all, but I didn't get my bracket in, so it's not official. I won't get any points. But in the end, you got to feel good about USA's chances for competing at the next World Cup in 4 years.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of time for development. The youngest team really out there in the World Cup, this year. I mean, a lot of pressure, I think. These are moments when I hate TikTok because all I scrolled through my For You feed was just endless hype videos of the US making the round of 16 and them, being on this great journey that we haven't seen in 20 years and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. But the problem is that, I mean, the U.S. is a decent soccer team, but we also get to the story of there's a reason it's called football in other countries, and there's a reason we call football in our country.
Yeah, USA fans got over that one. Yeah, they flipped it out like, oh, let's just watch actual football, and then you got a good game of K-State and TCU to lead it off. So
yeah, so I just feel like soccer is not the U.S. main sport. That is football in other countries. That is their sport. They do not have baseball and football, as in the pigskin football, but it's arguably the only sport that they have and the biggest thing that they do have, and the talent is so much more over there. Just because of you have a lot of guys that were playing for the U.S. that play their club soccer in Arsenal or somebody else in England. It just there's just not that much here in the United States as far as soccer goes at the professional level.
Something I kind of want to add to that is how many. I'm guessing you all seen it too of everybody talking about like if we actually put all of our athletes into soccer, that would be really good. Like,
If you had,
I'm assuming y'all seen that trend, and I'm like, you would think because you're good athletes in one sport, they'd be good at other sports, but because you're big and fast doesn't necessarily mean you have that kind of coordination with your feet. Because I mean, like,
well, the point would be like if instead of grabbing a football at age 8,
I know that, but still, like, I feel like the skill set, even like, I mean, there's always an argument of how many basketball players could be really good at, say, baseball or football or vice versa. That's an age-old argument, of the greatest athletes. I feel like soccer is a different skill set that it wouldn't necessarily translate as well. Again, but
well, then we need to quit doing the international NFL games and have them play local talent. Have the Jaguars go play a team of Londoners in football, and then we can just get.
I mean, but you mentioned baseball, and baseball's gotten pretty international at this standpoint, though.
Oh, baseball definitely has. I think each sport has its own little.
And I mean, baseball is huge in South America. Since South America and even Asia now, basketball is big all over Asia now. Like
they're gonna go.
A lot of our American sports are making.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of our American sports have expanded different markets. Basketball is also really big in Europe too.
As soon as there's an NFL player worthy elsewhere, they will go find them. They will go get them. It's not about stockpiling American talent. I mean, but can we get soccer to the point? And I think it is. I think it's growing, the MLS. But yeah, like Jacob said, they're all playing club elsewhere. We don't have, I think I would be more interested in it if I could follow an MLS team that was close to my city or something, and then I saw him go play for our national team. But it's like even those guys aren't good enough to play on our national team.
I mean, it's that whole money thing. It's like, I mean, they if you look at all the big athletes, I know hockey. There's a lot of hockey players in Europe that come play in America. For a reason. It's just the opposite for soccer. Or basketball players over in Europe come over to America. Like
we're the host.
I mean, it's just soccer is big in Europe. It's where the basis is. The best people from North America go play over there. The people who are really good at the American sports come over here and play our sports. It's just wherever it's biggest at because it's where there's money at. Could those guys play over there? Yeah, they could, but there's more money in the U.S. That's how it goes for soccer.
I think we can break it down really simply, and that being people in the United States are better with sports using their hands. People in other countries are better at playing sports only using their feet. So
that's why we give kickers a hard time in the one sport that we have.
That's right. Exactly. That's right.
And that's why toilets flush backwards in the southern hemisphere. So it's the same thing. We're just going across. But I think soccer, as to your point, Wade, I think that soccer needs kind of an upgrade here in the States. I think we need more teams, and I think there's an opportunity there. It's just not as big, and you've got storied programs in clubs in other countries, and that's where the money is. I mean, if they can get the money and the funding within the United States, you'll see a grow in it over time, and it's kind of the first shot for a lot of college guys to go out there, because really looking at the rosters and you're looking at the ages and you're going, well, these guys playing for our national team for the United States are fresh out of college or in college, and they're playing in the World Cup versus people like Messi, Ronaldo, and a lot of other guys that have been playing soccer for years at the professional level. So, I mean, I just feel like there needs to be a professional representation for soccer within the United States. It's just not there yet, and hopefully it gets there soon. But moving from that, I don't know who said this.
That's probably Chet. I know what you're talking.
Within our group chat this past week, but they made the statement, and it can only be really two people because they're the only two people that really voice that they go to the gym frequently.
Oh, that was me who said the statement in the group chat.
It was you.
I don't know why he put it in the notes. I don't think we had to say it on the show. I mean, it was just an observation that I had.
He said that every dude at the gym wears a Dodgers hat.
Am I lying though?
Every dude. No, you're not.
I see it.
Totally agree.
I mean, bandwagon, But also, a lot of people in Louisiana wear it because they think it's trendy. That it's like Louisiana.
They think it stands for Louisiana?
Yeah.
Like, no, it doesn't.
Misinformed people.
What were the ladies wearing, Tyler?
That's like people that walk around. That's like people that walk around wearing a Yankees hat, and they can't tell you.
Yeah, no. Honestly, it's either Dodgers or Yankees hat that I.
Yeah, the guys wear Dodgers hats. The girls wear Yankees hats.
Yep,
and
that is it. That is
actually
a true statement. The girls wear the Yankees hat, and the dudes wear the Dodgers hat.
I'll never forget.
Taylor Swift wears a Yankees hat to the recording studio.
Yeah, I did. I did one day ask somebody. I did ask somebody that was wearing a Yankees hat one day. I said, "Are you a Yankees fan?" And they were like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Are you a Yankees fan?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
"You should
pretty
just walk
clearly,
up to, like,
you're wearing a Yankees hat." And they were like,
"5 players."
"Oh, is that what this is?" And I'm
they
thinking,
had it at Urban Outfitters, man.
I'm serious. It's like, what? I'm like,
I just start like going up to them, like, name the starting 9 lineup for the Dodgers. Go.
No, name one person from the team. Never mind the starting lineup. But one person. I mean, that'll tell you.
Name the team.
Name the team.
Yeah.
Louisiana
Where do they
Dodgers.
play? There you go. Where do they play?
I mean, I feel that pain because as a fan of a sport that the average person doesn't watch, and you wear something half related to my sport.
It's like
Oh,
Ched
you see
wearing
what-
a White Sox hat and like a Red Sox hat for like all of his years in college because he just picked it up on the side of the road at Southgate.
But moving to one of our, we're getting long here, so we're trying to close
Oh,
it out. And of
geez.
course, Chet likes to throw in his little TMZ segment for the show, and we'll put his TMZ segment in there. And of course, I missed a sponsor, so it's sponsored by Yeti. If you guys want to go over there and get all of your Yeti merch, they are running free shipping on all orders over $50. You can check out all their coolers, drinkware, luggage that you need for your fun little adventures. I need to get some stuff because I looked today. Spoiler alert, I hope Lauren's not listening to this, but I thought about taking a vacation out west to the great out west there because it seems like it's so popular now for people to go on vacation now. Out west in the mountains or out in the wilderness, and I thought it'd be a decent idea. So I might be getting some of that soon and testing it out on its durability on some long trips.
Just throw it
out
off
there
the
as
side
well.
of a cliff and see if it's still durable.
Exactly. So maybe I probably won't do that because I'll spend probably a decent amount of money on it and I don't want to lose it. And my excuse to them would be, I threw it off the side of a cliff because my friend told me to do it. Just its durability. And they'll say, well, where is it? And I'm going to say, well, I never got it back because I didn't decide to climb
It's in
down
the
the Grand
Colorado River.
Canyon
That's where
to
it is.
retrieve it. Yeah. So if you guys want to go over there and check out all that stuff, you can head over to the link in our show. And get you some.
We can head out west to see Prime's first game with the Colorado Buffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll need the durability in that stadium if they're going to be continuing to play in that stadium.
And they have a home and away with TCU, by the way, as well.
Ooh, I'll be going to that probably.
Fantastic.
That's this close for everybody.
But getting back on topic, Chet's TMZ segment of the week is two dudes in a gym had a brawl over a bench press. So the gym stuff continues. I don't understand. I mean,
what are the odds? Like I bring up the gym earlier in the week, and then the TMZ segment is just at the gym.
Yeah, how did two dudes fight over a bench press? Like, aren't you spotting him? Like, I don't understand.
Maybe it wasn't. Like he just dropped it on it. Like I don't know.
No, I'm spot. He's like, no, I'm lifting first. No, I'm lifting first. It's over there and just like fighting about it. I don't know. I think that you should just put a set amount of weight on it, and if they can't lift it, then sorry, you're spotting.
Yeah, I agree.
But interesting TMZ segment of the week, Chet. Thank you for submitting that. But
we go from Odell getting kicked off a plane to two dudes brawling over a bench press.
Fantastic.
So what's the next one going to be?
Yeah, and the only other thing here that I find really strange is Floyd Mayweather has been working on buying an NBA team. I think that's pretty interesting. But and he recently made a $2 million offer to the franchise, $2 billion offer to the franchise. And of course, he does have all that money because of his fun little fights that he has that are so publicly thrown out there for the money. Interesting take. What are y'all's thoughts on the fact that he?
Do we know the team that he's offering?
I have no idea.
Probably like the Pacers.
The Pacers.
The Pacers.
I don't know. The Sacramento Kings, the most irrelevant franchise in sports.
I couldn't name off the team, but hopefully Chet's in the comments. I know that the team wasn't listed. Well, I don't really know. It's got to be maybe he buys the team and brings back the Seattle team. I'll go with that.
I mean, that's already in the works, I think. Is it not?
No, it's going to be a Vegas team next.
He said the rumors is the Pistons.
Yeah, the Pistons are going to become the Pistols, and they're going to play in Las Vegas.
The Las Vegas Pistols.
Oh, so in a statement that Floyd Mayweather said,
made all of his money in Vegas. There's no way he doesn't move whatever team to Vegas.
Yeah, well,
I mean, they already have a WNBA team, so I mean, it would be logical.
And he'll build an arena too.
Yeah, I mean, they already have one, T-Mobile Arena. That's where the Vegas Golden Knights play.
But I read that they would consider building a second arena because there's so much demand for concerts
You know, they got the money.
to just do it. But yeah,
Yes,
I think
they do.
that would definitely be
They
where
got
he
the
would
money
lead
in
the
the
team.
room for it. I mean, just pick a.
Also, there's
pick
a big
desert and-
shift from playing basketball on top of the hockey arenas. Because
that's a piece of cake.
No. From
Yeah,
what I've
it
read,
is.
though, from what I've read, though, that the NHL is starting to file complaints against it in the few cities that they double up and stuff. There's now a push by the NHL saying it's not good for the surfers or some other crap.
Then they got to start playing on rollerblades on the hardwood.
It's only because they don't want to have to keep up with it, Neil. That's
Exactly.
the only reason. They're
trust
too
me.
lazy to
Honestly,
keep up with the ice.
that should be our
That's
new
it.
sport that we come up with: roller basketball.
All right. Speaking of hockey, I'm getting in on the action this week. Hopefully, maybe next week. If not, I'm going to go see Jacob's future team, and we're going to have the best ice in the South in the Raising Cane's River Center.
I'm glad it's coming
been
back.
prime. There's nothing else that goes on in there, so it's been iced up and ready to go for months.
Who's playing that game?
It is the Mississippi Seawolves versus the Carolina
Thunderbirds.
You're supposed to know that. You're from Carolina.
If I don't make this Thursday's game, I am buying tickets for next Thursday's game, and then if Jacob's working there in January, hell, I'll come for the third. So
yeah,
we'll go for the third.
Coast Coliseum road trip.
Yeah. So I think it'll be a good little time. Hopefully they can come back. Yeah, the team fired their head coach. The Seawolves fired their head coach this
It's been
week.
a rough start for the.
Was that your first move with the team? That was your first managerial decision with the team to fire the coach?
I told him if they keep firing people, Jacob's going to be the next man in line.
I will say, though, that my hockey team needs to fire their coach already. I'm tired of us being bad for this many years after being so good for a period of time. And now that football is winding down, I'm going to dive back into it like I do every year. You know, I usually follow once football ends, I start following that more closely a little bit, you know. So
my team's tearing it up in the NHL right now with the Boston Bruins. So the crazy thing is
Preds are struggling. So
the crazy thing is that the Celtics nor the Bruins have lost a game this year in their home stadium. So that's pretty crazy to think.
Is on fire.
Something's going on with the arena. They're doing spiritual dances around it or something to keep it alive or whatever's going on. But if that's all, do you guys have anything else? I know Chet likes to close it out with it. Do you guys have anything else?
I think we covered it all. We hit soccer, hockey, football.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll dive more into the playoff on next week's show.
Absolutely. And we'll have a little more of our what could happen and should happen in the playoff, of course, next week. Closing. Thanks, Neil, by the way, for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, guys. Anytime, guys. Anytime we can't make it, just shoot me a text. I love hopping on. It's always fun.
Absolutely.
Neil was ready within 10 minutes. This guy knows.
Yeah. Neil was like waiting around his phone. He's waiting for the text message.
No, it's one of the things where I text because
he's like, yes. I
mean, usually I watch, as y'all know, I'm usually the comments. I usually watch. I was like,
Neil's like
from Chet by now saying, hey, when's it going to be on? It's be on this time. I'm like, cool, I'll hop on. Then he said, oh, I'm not on. So I text Wade. He's like,
yeah,
you hop on. I'm like, sure.
Neil's like her little AAA.
He's the emergency QB, baby.
We're calling him up when needed, and then we ship him back, and then it's just a back and forth process.
Hey, like I said, guys, I enjoy doing this. So
yeah.
Wade's our middle reliever that comes out of the bullpen to start sometimes. So it was one of those situations. But if you guys want to go,
how about the Grom going to the Rangers?
Oh yes,
yeah.
I'm good with that. Get him away from Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm good with it too.
Absolutely, it's a weird thing, but they need some help over there. But closing, guys, if you want to catch any more of our content here on the Sports Scramble Show, we do them on Sunday nights, of course. And if you guys want to go check that out on YouTube for the live show, and you can watch it on Apple Podcast, Spotify for the recorded shows as well. And the recordings are always uploaded shortly after our live. And of course, if you guys want to catch the college football talk on College Football Coast to Coast tomorrow, Tyler and I will be working on that. I think we're still on for 3 o'clock.
We're on
for tomorrow. So we're on for 3. So we will see you guys at 3 tomorrow for College Football Coast to Coast, talking about the bowl season and the college football playoff. And then on Tuesday night, SEC talk with Wade and Tyler. We're on for Tuesday night.
Yep. We're good.
So
no shows affected this week.
Yeah, so we're back on the normal schedule for 1 week finally, and so they'll be on Tuesday night as well, so you guys can catch them over on Facebook with their show. But of course, as always, thank you guys for joining, and we will see you guys next Sunday night.